Yeah. Welcome to today's Nigerian Leadership Series by the African Leadership Group, which was formed and designed to help Nigeria in transition, Nigeria to produce leadership, Nigeria to become what Nigeria was designed to be. This has been driven by the Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation. My name is Itwa Igodalo, and I'm very, very happy, extremely pleased, and most delighted to be here. Today, we're going to start in the first of our series to look at Nigeria 365 days after May 29. Nigeria 365 days after May 29, 2023, and see what the scorecard is, what we have done, what we have not done, what we should have done, and what we're still trying to do. And our guest today is somebody who may himself have been in that seat because he attempted to get there. So anything could have happened, was as it was, he didn't get there and somebody else did. But nonetheless, I think he's well placed to look very critically at Nigeria 365 days later, because having prepared for the office, he must be able to see what has gone right and what could have been done better in the Nigeria that we see today, or at least give us a snapshot of any achievements in a very, very forthright way of this last 365 days. Prince Adewole Adebayo was a presidential candidate under the Social Democratic Party, SDP, and has been committing himself to the question of leadership in Nigeria. He has worked very hard and tirelessly to be part of the leadership equation in this country and to see what is possible. A lawyer by training who has practiced both in the United States of America and Nigeria here, and also an entrepreneur and a director in different companies and enterprises. He's here to let us know what his thoughts are on 365 days later. Mr. Prince, you are most welcome in Jesus' name. 365 days after May 29th, 2023, can you give us what you think the situation in Nigeria is right now? But please bear in mind that your thinking and your comparisons is Nigeria prior to May 29, 2023, and what happened 365 days consequent upon that. Please go ahead. The floor is yours. Ms. Prince on the line.
He was in a few minutes ago, but I don't see him.
Okay.
I am calling him now.
Call him to find out whether he's there. But maybe
Okay,
we can take a comment from the floor and see if there's anybody who has anything to say as to what they think, where they think Nigeria is 365 days after. I see my sister Fatima Waziri Ibrahim. I don't know if she wants to make a comment or the other, so that she can just unmute herself, put on her microphone or put on her video, and let's see her, and let her just chip in and tell us what she thinks. Fatima, please. Thank you,
Hello,
Fatima.
good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. For now, I don't have any comments, but probably well into the program, I would have something to say.
All right, Fatima.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I'm a nice man, I'll let you off lightly.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Sonny, what are your thoughts on Nigeria 365 days later? And I can see that my dear sister is on the line, Mrs. Fetuga, and I'm going to call her after Sonny. Sonny, give me a quick thought as to what you think.
Yeah, well, Nigeria, we have to look at it in context. Where were we as at May 29th? And where are we today? So I believe the essence of any government is to try and make life better. At least that's what they campaign with. That what we are suffering is going to be better, and we are going to have a better prospect with them in the saddle of government. But what we have had successively is, before we see that enjoyment or that benefit, we then have to endure some hardship. And as far as I can remember, since the 80s of the austerity measures, we have been enduring one hardship after the other. But on the flip side, what we see is that those in government or those in power keep getting it better and rosier. This government told us that they were going to do much better than Buhari did. And Buhari told us he was going to do much better than Jonathan did. But successively, what we have seen is that things are not as they have promised us. So if we look at the policy of this government since they came in, on day one, there was what they call the reversal of the subsidy that we have enjoyed on petroleum. And everybody knows that petrol and diesel drives our economy in this country. No wonder everything skyrocketed once that decision was taken. So everything skyrocketed since that decision was taken. They also floated the Naira. That also came with its own challenges. Subsequently, all the prices of commodities have gone up, whether building materials, cement, iron rod, sand, granite, everything has gone up. Rice, beans, gari, oil, all the prices has gone up. Although the government, on the other hand, have tried to, since that pronouncement, have been chasing their tail, trying to rectify it. The promise of the student loan, they have set up the committee, they've been working on it, they've still not perfected it yet. Recently, the government directed that the CNG cars will be done. They are negotiating with labor to review salary. Obviously, we had in the news yesterday that they proposed 48,000 as minimum wage, and labor just worked out that that's not even, there's nothing to discuss about. So 365 days later, it will seem, and this is like 25% of their government gone already. A quarter of their regime has been spent. So if they have only 4 years, which is what they have voted for, we should be judging them 25% of the way now. Because you can't assume that you're going to get 8 years, because your mandate is for 4 years. If we are to rate them, I would say we are still really, really struggling. Maybe the effect of their policies have not really kicked in yet. Electricity has been increased, and there was even an attempt to introduce a cybersecurity levy recently, which is now suspended. So on the whole, to me, it doesn't look, and this is where I will anchor, the government needs to have thinkers. Don't react. The government look like a reactionary government to me. Yes, you may have your own plans and policies, but most of the things that have happened does not look as if they were well thought out before they were implemented. And this is where I would say the government needs to go back, have strategic people that will go away, sit down somewhere for one whole month. All they are doing is taking all the elements and pieces of the Nigerian economy and, doing scenario planning. If we do this, what will happen? What is the impact? What can we do? They will do that for all sectors, and they will come out with simple blueprints that ministers can implement. So as it is now, it's like every minister for himself, implement what you think you can, but there's no coordination yet. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you very much, Sonny. We really appreciate that. Thank you for making those comments and so on and so forth. I think you've been fair enough and straight to the point. Let's see if Auntie Mrs. Fetuda has anything to say.
Can you hear me now?
We're just about hearing you. 365 days later, Nigeria.
Well, you have put me on the spot, so I have to say something. Good evening, everybody. It's been tough. Anybody that knows me will know that I'm an incurable optimist. But I think all my optimism is dying now. There is really, really, really no good news. No good news around. I know that this government means well, but I have not seen all the good thoughts in action. On the contrary, there is too much poverty in the land. Prices of everything is going up and up and up and up, and we don't know where it is going to end. The last straw for me right now that I'm really, really, really afraid of is the clamp down on journalists. The way journalists are just being thrown into anywhere for days before their people know where they are. I don't think this is part of democracy. And I think we should be allowed to talk. People should be allowed to give their free and good opinion on issues. But at the same time, I still believe that Nigeria is just this one country that we have, and we must not give up. We must keep hoping, we must keep praying, and we must keep working towards a good Nigeria. That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you very much. That was short, sharp, and I dare say very sweet. But now we have our guest on the line. Is looking younger, calmer, less stressed, and maybe a little bit more handsome. A little bit, but definitely is looking younger and calmer. We've had him a couple of times on this platform, and I'm happy that he agreed to come again today. So you're Pastor, you are muted, sir.
Thank you very much. I think, Pastor, you are muted. I don't know. Okay. We can't hear you.
All right, Prince, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, sir.
Very good. I say you are looking younger, you are looking less stressed, and you are looking a little bit more handsome. Just a little.
Oh, thank you very much. I think the anointing, the instantaneous anointing of meeting a man of God, it can transform someone's life.
You won't allow me to have the last word, I'm sure. Thank you so much for coming on. Are you in Abuja, Ondo, Lagos, the US? Where in the world are you?
Okay, I'm far away. Actually, I was to take this from Paris, but overnight I had to come to Kilimanjaro. So I'm around the tallest place in Africa now. That's where I am. And I do apologize that I'm starting with an apology. I don't know, for some reason, I couldn't just join the meeting. It was on my system insisting that I must sign in. And that was taking time, but I mean now, and I think I've lost like 12 minutes. So I do apologize for that. But
that's okay, you are forgiven. A few people made a few comments while you were not here as to what they thought Nigeria is 365 days later. But quite frankly, having been somebody who aspired for that position yourself, having been somebody who probably x-rayed during your campaign or during your preparations where Nigeria was prior to May 29, 2023, having been somebody who thought that these were some things that you were going to do to brief up Nigeria or to get Nigeria going, and looking at where we are now, I just want your honest and candid opinion as to how well we have done in the last 365 days. And it's really how well we have done in the last 365 days. You probably have a rough idea where we were about a year ago. But now, what could we have done, and what has happened, and what are your thoughts at this point in time? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. First, I'm one of the few Nigerians who are not disappointed. And I'm one of the few Nigerians who are not surprised. So I'm in the position of a doctor who is monitoring a patient who is diabetic and has some issues with breathing, but who is the first to take the highest amount of sugar and who smokes as a chain smoker. So if I see that patient still alive after 3 years, I'm pleasantly surprised. So, and if the patient is a little sick, I am not surprised. So when we were running for president, we did not only talk about ourselves, what we would do as SDP and what I would do as president. I also compared to what the alternatives would be. If you voted for PDP after 16 years, what they would be. If you voted for APC after the 8 years, what the country would look like. If you voted for Labour, what I saw as a branch of PDP at that time, what you will get ideologically. So to be honest, I am personally not disappointed. And I'm not agitated at all. I'm rather surprised, pleasantly, that the country is not worse than this. So I am not joining in wailing and complaining. And also because I studied nitty-gritty of what it will mean to be president, chief executive, and commander-in-chief. I knew the kind of decisions that will have to be taken and the consequences of these decisions. When the president who is there now takes his decisions, I don't look at it from the point of view of how it impacts on me outside. I look at it from the point of view of, yes, these are the kind of decisions I knew will come up, and the solutions that he has applied, or the method or policy, how will I have taken them? And where there are differences in some of the decisions he took and the way I will have taken them, the consequences are what I feared, where I didn't adopt those options. So far, so good. 5 things I can say. One is that President Tinubu has not disappointed me at all. And maybe the voters will have to convince me if they can say he has disappointed them, because he hasn't deviated much from what he said he was going to do. He's doing them almost like somebody following a playbook of how he's going to do it. So I cannot say I'm disappointed. He's a politician who keeps his word, and is keeping his word. So it's not like, oh, he was promising something else, and when he came in now, he's doing something else. He's doing exactly what he said he would do. And if you also follow his governance record, the way he was doing in Lagos, those 8 years, that's exactly how he's doing now. So then second, the policies that he's adopting, the consequences of these policies are not even as severe as they would have been if someone else was doing them. So the drastic policies that they adopted and the drastic and desperate consequences of them are consistent with anywhere such decisions have been taken, anywhere. And third reason why I'm not disappointed is that it appears as if majority of the decisions he's taking, he has taken them along the line of carrying along the three arms of government. There is no pushback by the National Assembly, no pushback by the judiciary, and no serious pushback by civil society, labor, or whatever. So it looks to me that his decisions are popular, even though they are inconvenient. In terms of lost opportunities, yes, of course, they were well understood that when you make a decision, there are opportunity costs. So the decision that President Tinubu is taking follow decisions that were taken earlier by the electorate, one way or the other, that we have become what they call opportunity cost of democracy, where the options not followed. And the option now is to hand over the power to a Bola Ahmed Tinubu to act as President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. That people open their eyes and say, yes, this is a good decision, and a large number. And then there may be, of course, this other argument that there are some people who will say, we didn't vote for him. That's a different matter. In democracy, people who voted for me, that I know them. Who voted for other people, I know them. But at least there will be some people who voted for him. So, in on and all, as a Democrat, I'm not disappointed. I am only occasionally I get moved by humanity. Occasionally, the humanity of it affects me when I see all other options people have taken. Like if you look at the national problem that we say we are trying to solve, It's like someone who says that he wants to have cleaner teeth. So he goes to a dentist. It's a laudable objective. But if he has to sell his kidney to pay the dentist, you might think, is that a wise decision? You know, why would you have to sell something more important? You know, in order to just have cleaner teeth. It's an objective. There are other things you can do. So the objective that President Tinubu, who is president now, when he was candidate, the proposals he brought, the issues he said he was going to solve, the problems which the Vice President Atiku said he was going to solve, and Mr. Peter Obi and Governor Peter Obi and other people. If you summarize all of that, I took the view that these methods being used are not necessary, and they are the least likely to solve them. But the majority appears to think that no, people like us are talking from not having been in government before, we're talking concepts, not reality. And that those who have experience, this one has been governor for 8 years in Lagos and turned Lagos to a paradise, and people like Pastor Itua, they are there living in a country, in a state that is the 7th largest or 6th largest economy in Africa, and so they are prosperous. And the rest of us who don't live in Lagos, the prosperity will come to us if we allow them to be there. And the PDP said they were in government for 16 years, they created this, created that. So people believe in all of that and said, okay, let's follow them. So in following them, we are following for 4 years. This is the first year. So I see that either people did not pay attention or they're just not ready to pay sacrifice. Because if you had followed me in the path which I recommended, which is that we follow Chapter 2 of the Constitution, we do social investment, we ensure that we do not follow IMF policies because they just won't work. Not that we should quarrel with IMF, no, but that we should understand that when you follow your wife to the hospital because she's pregnant, and the doctor is making a recommendation and giving her all this medicine to take, and to take them, iron supplement and all of that, that they may not be suitable for you as a man who is not pregnant, so they're not meant for you. So you cannot say, well, it's my doctor's wife, so let me just take the medicine. So if IMF is prescribing something that can work in other countries that are not like ours, we can say, hey, we're not going to follow everything you say. And those are the ideas. So in short, not to ramble on the issue, I see that many Nigerians are disappointed. But it is not the fault of President Tinubu that they're disappointed. They are either disappointed because some didn't vote for him, some of my followers. So their disappointment started even before he started any policy at all. The moment the candidate you vote for does not win, you get disappointed. And whatever that person does after, your disappointment is not thereby reduced. Second set are those who didn't listen at all, who just thought it was like a game of football. I support Arsenal, I support Enyimba. Whether my team plays well or not, that's my team, I support. They don't realize that it has consequences. After the football match, everybody goes home. No consequence. But in an election, you don't go home. You may not even have a home to go to. There will be insecurity there. You may have no food. You may have serious health challenges. The economy may be so tumultuous that you cannot live a decent living. So then the third people who are disappointed are those who just don't understand that policies take time to mature. And that even if the policies you agree with are implemented, they need time. And then the last group are those who are disappointed because of other ethical issues that they are seeing in the government, some of the breach of processes and things like that. But for me, none of this was outside my prescription. In fact, I predicted if we had done some prior research that was necessary for this meeting, as I'm talking, there will be like 2 hours of tapes that can be played one after the other when I was predicting where the currency would be, when I was predicting where unemployment would be, predicting where inflation, hyperinflation would be, predicting cost of doing business, cost of living, factor cost, and so many other things, and emphasizing that the issues of the day that people were asking me, whether it was the turn of the South to produce president, whether it was good to have Muslim, or you have to have Christian, whether it's the turn of Igbos or turn of Yorubas, all those things, which I was telling people at that time that this thing you're asking me don't matter. I'm not running for president for you to answer these kind of questions. That the questions I want to answer are your kitchen table questions, pocketbook questions, children going back to school question, sleeping well overnight in your house question, and general productivity of the country, peace, and that farewell to poverty and insecurity is the only thing that brought me. Also, that extraneous thing you are saying to me, they are good for campaign, but when governance starts, they will pale into insignificance. The real commonality of the people will show. The fact that we buy food from the same market, we have to sleep the same night, we have to raise our children to grow up in a country. We can, if anything happens to you, you know, oh, I'm leaving them in Nigeria. They will be okay. These kind of questions are the things that are disappointing people now. Those who believe in religion, even when someone of their religion has won, they now realize they have won nothing. Those who believe in ethnicity, when someone of their ethnicity has won, they now realize they won nothing. Those who believe in money politics, the money they collected to vote is already gone now. Those who are doing campaign business, printing poster, these journalists who are collecting adverts and not questioning the lies in the adverts, they've all finished spending the money now. So this is now where governance makes our decision. And I think we are lucky as a people that one, we have 1 year of peace, no war. And the government we put in place in 1999 has continued to endure. We have done half a quarter of a century of, by May 29, we will do a quarter of a century of civilian government. And we are still a continual democracy, learning, and that those who have power, who think they will be there forever, they've already spent 1/4 of the time now. So very soon, all of us will be equal. And then for the voters who didn't pay attention, they will have a second or another chance in the next 2.5 years. So that is where my state of mind is regarding the 1 year.
Thank you very, very much, Prince. Thank you so much for that elucid and very, very insightful analysis of the whole situation. So this is where we are now. This is where we have come to. What then are your thoughts as to the short, the medium, and the long-term things that we probably need to be looking at to take us to the place where we probably should be getting to?
First, we have to look at, we should know that governance is more important than politics. Politics is by the way by which we do exam to select the best candidate, but the candidate has to do the job. So I don't want us to be like America. America, it's not everything that America is doing that is good. Don't let us be a democracy of perpetual politics, where you end one election, somebody is sworn in, politics start that day. No, we should learn that governance is important. And governance has 3 branches. Those whom we have elected, or who somehow they have been declared elected, they are the government. So we, the people owe them support. Whether we agree with their policy or not, we owe them basic support. We must continue to recognize the government of our country. Don't say the government is illegitimate, go against that, because somehow there ought to be a government. After all, when we had British, when they were ruling us, they were white-skinned, different religion, we didn't ask them to come. We still obey the law, and we still pay taxes to them. When military came, and the military were in government, even though nobody invited them, they still managed to attend university that they created. So now that we are choosing our own civilian government, even if you don't like the candidate, you don't think he's a perfect person, you need to obey the law of the land, you need to pay your taxes, you need to cooperate. Next to that is that we need to be critical of the government. We need to be critical of policies. We need to analyze policies and be critical of them. And some of us who are in leadership, we need to provide alternatives. Because for everything that we are doing, there is alternative. Even from the name we call Nigeria, there are alternatives before we settle Nigeria. For independence, we're looking for alternative names. We have alternative system of government compared to parliamentary, presidential, and all of that. We also have alternative to political parties. You don't have to be APC all the time. And even in government policy, subsidy removal, there are more than 10 alternatives to subsidy removal. The method of running our financial system, there are alternatives. So the way we do our budget, there are alternatives. So people like us will continue to remind Nigerians of the alternatives. And we remind them by also defending the alternative as much as the government is defending what they are doing. And occasionally, like the clock, however weak the battery is, however bad the mechanism is, a clock will be right at least once a day. When occasionally the government does what is right, we have to say it is right. Let us support what the government is doing. This is right. Then we also have to define government more in a deeper way. We have to define government to include not just Tinubu and his cohorts in the Federal Executive Council. Government also includes the people we elect into the House of Representatives. Because, for example, recently, people invited me to come and criticize President Tinubu regarding the cyber security levy. And I said, why? I'm not a Tinubu critic. I want to be president. So why do I jump up criticizing Tinubu? He didn't pass the law. Your representative passed the law. The media carried the law when it was passed. So if you don't want the levy, stop talking about Tinubu. Just tell every member of House of Representatives representing you that within 48 hours, they must bring a repeal of that law immediately. So the government is not only one person. So it's a good thing that the president has suspended the operation of the levy. But the way government works is that you must ensure that if you are against that levy, as I'm against it, you need to let the House of Representatives member and your senators go there now and repeal that law. If the law is repealed, there will be no levy to pay. So we need to have a deeper understanding of our government. And at the same time, I'm an SDP, and in my political party, when government brings a policy and we are discussing the good or bad side of the policy, I always ask my party people, how did the elected SDP members vote? Because I don't want us to sound very silly, to go and start opposing something which our members voted for. So if we don't like this policy, have we recalled our members who are in the House, summon them for question to say, this law or this regulation or this resolution is contrary to the objective of SDP and the principle for which we stand. So the way you should vote should not be in agreement with it. So if we do it that way, then we'll be consistent, because you will see that in Nigeria today, PDP and the presidential candidate will come on air to criticize the present government for implementing policies which PDP passed into law when PDP was there. So there's a kind of inconsistency in the way we structure our democracy. We need to strengthen it and broaden it. And then the same way, as we're talking horizontally, we also need to talk vertically. There are some responsibilities that are those of the state and those of the local government. So when you go around and say, we are hungry, we bring power and all of that, you should start that with your state government. Because all over the world, primary need is done by primary government. So food, housing, basic things, they are done at state level. And that is why I keep saying that in our engagement, we must try to get it right at every level of the government, because we are not running a unitary system where only the federal government exists. So those are the things we can bring into it, and then to not leave the space and to talk to those who are in opposition, to understand that the opposition is a place of sacrifice and it's a place of over-performance. You must be able to have alternative for every government policy, and you must have superior argument, and you must struggle to let your voice be heard, even though the government of the day has monopoly of the microphone. And for as much as possible, no matter the temptation, unless you are ideological convergence, try as much as possible not to go and join the ruling government, no matter how tempting the offer is. To say, oh, I cannot lose, and let me just go and join. You are not helping the country. If you are in opposition on the basis of ideology, on the basis that you have alternative, that itself, you are in government. Because government is both the government in power and the government in waiting. And the government in waiting is the real hope that people have. Because when government are frustrated with the government of the day, when people are frustrated with the government of the day, the reason why they're not losing hope in the country is that, oh, we can change the government. But if people lose hope in the government of the day, and they also feel that the opposition is even more useless than the government of the day, then they lose complete hope. So the opposition must always be better, must always even be stricter in recruitment, must expect higher quality in the candidates, higher quality in this membership, higher quality, so that people can say, okay, we have made a mistake in electing these ones, or somehow they are there, but there is the alternative. And that is what democracy is about. It is not that you will not elect a bad government or a poor government, or that somebody you elect will not disappoint you. It is that it's only temporary. So if that's what the short-term things we can do. The long-term things we can do is the general reorientation of the population as a whole. Because I can tell you categorically that the way democracy is structured, you can never have a government that is smarter and better than the collective wisdom of the electorate. And if majority or substantial portion of the electorate is the type that you can use Indomie to push around, or that are so biased in certain sentimental issues like ethnicity and religion, and the issue of the day, which you use governance to measure, are not the issues that they use in selecting the leadership. That variance will always show, and the developmental cost of that variance can mean that the country is retarded for a long time. So this continuous filtering of the electorate, continuous development of that is necessary. And then next to that is that the political parties are extremely unsustainable. And investment in political parties is one of the quickest investment in leadership in Nigeria, because for many years, as African Leadership Group, we have produced many leaders over the years. And even the pastor through the church, we have produced many great leaders. But you cannot bring them to government because you're not a political party. So the kind of investment, it will be a regional pastor in a church the amount of investment the church will have made into you, spiritual growth, physical growth, emotional growth, ethical growth, and just to be a regional pastor in the church. But somebody can jump from a motor park and be a governor. No investment in that person. So, and the political party is how we need to do that. So the way you run churches, run other organizations, run mosques, run universities, political parties should be run like that. I remember the unfortunate incident of when Herbert died, Herbert Wigwe. Access Bank, within a short time, have been able to put up another CEO. And when I went through the profile, I saw that Access Bank was not expecting the tragedy, but they have prepared a lot of people in their leadership cadre that if anybody resigns, goes, an Access Bank is not as important as one state or if one local government in Nigeria, just a bank, private entity. So if we have that level of investment, and if you tell someone today that I'm going to resign from my job, and they ask you, what do you want to go and be? And the person says, I want to be a pastor. People will say, yes, it's a good decision. It's a very good decision. Very good decision. If you say, I resign from my job today, and I want to go and run a political party, they will say, what kind of nonsense is that? You resign from your job, and you want to go and run a political party. And if you say, yes, I want to run a political party, and the party is not PDP, it's not APC, it's any other party, they will say you're wasting your time. But you're not wasting your time. You are preparing alternative leaders, ethical leaders, principled leaders. And that's what we need to do. If we don't do it, we will be complaining all the time. So those are the long-term things we need to do. And we must do them now.
But you mentioned something about alternatives to subsidy removal. I don't know if you can share some of those things with us. And then also what we need to do about our leadership selection or politics or leadership recruitment policies. You mentioned about preparing leaders and making sure the leaders are in place and something about succession planning and things like that. What are your honest opinions about those things?
Okay. You see, first, let's start with subsidy. I always want to run away from looking like I'm campaigning again after losing the election. I'm still campaigning in my head. But I'll just paraphrase that. What we said was that the main problem with subsidy was the amount of money from the budget that was being used in the name of subsidy. So fiscally means that with the revenue coming in and the amount of expenditure the government was making, we were exceeding our income to the point where they were even saying that they were borrowing money to fund the subsidy. It started with NNPC, our cash cow, saying that they were going bankrupt because they were using their earnings to pay for subsidy. Because of that, they were not paying money to federation accounts. And because the tiers of government rely on the money coming to federation account, they too were having shortfall. So they now said, okay, where is the money going? They conveniently didn't mention the amount of money we are spending in the name of fighting Boko Haram. That's trillions. They didn't want to talk about that. They talked about the money we spend on subsidy. Of course, we were spending other money on tax rebates for so-called pioneer industries and all of that. And we're giving tax waivers to many people. And of course, there were loose areas in revenue collection and a lot of concessions we had given out also through which we're losing money and many other swaps we've done. They didn't talk about that. They talked about specifically the money we spent on subsidy. And it was going from 600 billion, 840 billion. At the time, it was costing 1 trillion. At the time, they were even saying it's going to reach 2.something trillion. And if you appear on Arise TV, they have their journalists already waiting with those questions. What are you going to do about subsidy? If you go on channels, it's there waiting for you. You go on NTA, waiting for your AIT. So the elite in the government and their friends in the media, they will confront you every day with that question, subsidy, subsidy. And if you have a meeting with any multilateral organization, IMF, World Bank, they will ask you questions on subsidy. So, but we refuse to be blackmailed by that. And I said the solution is this. Audit it first. Find out truly if volumetrically the amount of money you are spending on subsidy is a subsidy for petrol used by Nigerians. Until you know that, you cannot know the amount you are spending on subsidy. So, second, when you know that, then you cut down on the waste. Then you phase subsidy out by doing what in economics we call shift. Traveling along the curve, you cannot escape. So you cannot use differences, you use shift and say, okay, who are the people consuming this petrol? I know that if petrol is 3,000 per liter, 3,000 naira per liter, Pastor Itua will not miss his church service. He will go there. So, but maybe the person who is riding Okada or Pep or a taxi driver might say, I cannot afford it. That is why transport fare is going up. Now, what you will do is that you will face it and shift people away from using petrol. You will say mass transit will not use petrol. So some of that is now being done by the present government. They did it opposite way. They say they are doing CNG, doing other things. So they are doing slowly, but if they are doing it at all, it's a good thing that they are doing it. Better not doing it. But if you want to do it in emergency, when President Buhari passed the law, Petroleum Industry Act, and says by 2023, June, we stop funding subsidy. And they passed the 2022 budget, or called Appropriation Act, and said they will not fund subsidy. What I will have done is to expand the time and make sure that within that short time, you are taking the people away from subsidy, from subsidized petrol, which means that if you are working in any city, you have access to transportation, the subsidy removal or whatever is not going to affect your ability to commute around. Those are the alternatives that we funded. But we also told them that unless you govern public finance very well, the subsidy thieves who are in the government, in the banks, and in the petroleum industry, they will also move to another product. Because when you have arbitrage, whether it's in foreign exchange, whether it is in pricing of a product, whether it's in subsidy, people will exploit it. So even if you save money from subsidy, you take the money to education trust fund, they will still follow you there. So long and short of what I'm saying is that I oppose the removal of the subsidy on the basis that, one, it won't solve the problem, because the problem was not the subsidy itself, it was the fraud being done in the name of the subsidy. So just like you have school feeding program, it is not the amount you spend on school feeding program that kills you, it's the fraud that people do in school feeding program. Just like you have amnesty program, it is not the fraud, it's not the amount you give to the ex-militants. You know, it is the fraud, because the ex-militant who was 18 years old will be 30 years old by now, but they are still militant and still continue to spend the money. So it doesn't make any sense. So it is not the amount of money you spend in chasing Shekau, Boko Haram, that is killing you. It is the fraud where military officers are becoming billionaires out of it. So it is not it's not programmatic. It's not like if I change from this program, then the fraud ends. No. So those are the options. But they have already beaten the bullet now. And if you look at the biting of the bullet, two things they have done. The people have taken the pain of subsidy removal, but the subsidy is still there. Because when I did the analytics of government spending, and NNPC, because now they are private, they are a limited company now, so they are hiding their books. But if you listen, when they speak and when you get some of their documents, they are still subsidizing petrol as we speak now. So if the government says SDP was wrong, Adebayo was wrong, we should not continue to do the subsidy, but they are still doing it now, except that they succeeded in the price increase, and they succeeded in creating a lot of crisis of cost of living, cost of doing business, inflation, hyperinflation. Inflation now is about 34% officially, and that is ballpark inflation. But if you take sector by sector, if you do a disambiguation of the inflation, food inflation is about 100%. And if you take inflation of rent and other things, so long and short of all of this is that there are many alternatives. Even as we speak today, there are alternatives to the subsidy, but they don't sound easy to get away with. And when three major candidates uniformly said, we will remove subsidy on day one, and if you look at the votes cast, the vote went to the majority vote went to the three of them who said we will remove subsidy on day one. So the subsidy on day one was a popular idea, but very, very bad one, which we are seeing the effect of it now. So then, with respect to leadership recruitment, there's nothing wrong with our leadership recruitment, because the present leadership, this is the kind of leadership we want. Every incumbent wants you to miss them when they go. So they will look for somebody who is weaker than them to succeed them. They are not playing to the strength. It is not, it's like, I'm seeing, look at how Nigerian Army started. Nigerian Army started by trying to recruit the best who could defend the country and raise cadres below them, so that by the time you are a major in the army, you're already leading leaders under you, captain, second lieutenant, second lieutenant, and NCOs. So by the time you are already a colonel with a red neck, you can lead a country. That was how the army started. But when the army joined politics, the leadership started looking for people who will not take over from them, who will obey them. So the leadership quality dropped in the armed forces. So you could be a general, and you don't have the quality of somebody who will have been a captain when the army started. So the army became weaker and weaker, to the point where Adewole Kazil, when he was retiring as chief of army staff, he said the army had become army of anything goes. And as it was with the army, then they public lost confidence in them, and 1999, they had to leave. The same thing is happening now in our politics. From 1999 to now, the doctrine is don't look for somebody who will outperform you, who will outshine you, who will do better than you, who is clever, who is smart, who is intelligent, who is ethical, who is independent-minded. Maybe Lagos, when Governor Tinubu was in Lagos, was an exception to the rule in terms of how they decided in their own party to select successors. So people will say, in Lagos, Fashola did better than Tinubu, very clearly. And I don't know what problem they had with him, but I thought that Ambode was doing quite well as well. And if you look at Lagos, I think even Tinubu cannot claim the achievement that Sanwo-Olu has now. Sanwo-Olu has achieved what Jakande started, which is to have real metro system working, and so many other things working. It doesn't mean that government is perfect, or they are even up to the mark, but it's that the trajectory of leadership recruitment in Lagos State is showing that at least they are trying to look for some competencies. So at national level, when President Tinubu will set up his council, Federal Executive Council, he went opposite. He set it up as if he wants ministers who will be totally non-performing. So I don't know whether he has abandoned that doctrine, but generally speaking, This is where our leadership lies. So if we change our mind and we are recruiting leadership that will be better than the incumbent, then we will encourage people of ideas, people of ethics, people of discipline in politics. And to do that will be done at 3 levels. At the level of political leadership, they will be looking for candidates. Political parties will be begging you and saying, you have done well in your private life. Come and lead us. Come and be our candidate. We will support you. We will push you. We will do everything you can to push you in front. And personally, that is what I would say SDP did with me in 2022. Because I wasn't a member of their party. I've been a member of the party since I was Biola time, but I've not been too active. And they came to me, I didn't go to them. I said, come and run on our ticket, we'll work with you. And they were introducing me to people they were supporting and all of that. Next is that the elite of the country, former heads of state, former military president, heads of state, civilian, business people, clergy like Pastor Itua, bankers, people with means, media owners, they will also start to pivot towards the idea that let us give visibility, let us give support, let us give encouragement to good leadership in Nigeria. Let us not say, let us take our share from the ruining of Nigeria. Let us combine together and continue to sift away people who can change the status quo. Because the status quo is benefiting the elite. Even though in the long-term analysis, it is a foolish kind of benefit in the sense that the country will have been better and the elite will have been more sustainably elitist and successful. They won't be dropping dead from simple diseases, because between the time they discover their ailment and the time they get the helicopter to take them to the next airfield to fly them out to Germany, they will be losing their lives anyhow like that. They will have things working around. You won't have aged former head of state limping to British Airways, Lufthansa, Air France, Turkish Air, Egypt Air, to go for simple medical care. You won't have your children with all the money and then you don't feel safe in the country. So, but as it is today, the elite, whether the elite bankers, the elite lawyers, the elite professions, the elite businesses, the elite clergy, elite pastors, elite imams and sheikhs, and all the business people, they all combine together to agree that they will be selecting among the few people who they are sure don't have competencies and won't change the privileges of the day. That is what is happening. And the media is also, either through the ownership of the media, the orientation of the conservative media, that this is what is following. And the young people who are coming into politics in Nigeria also need to change the orientation, because it doesn't matter that you are young, that you are 18 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old. If you already know how to support your ethnic member, you already know how to support your religious member, you're always doing all your analysis along those parochial ways, your youth is just not bringing anything new. You are still as conservative, as reactionary, as the 80-year-old, 90-year-old who we are complaining about. It is only when meritocracy, ingenuity, creativity, and the general feeling of ecumenism, where all of us feel like we are all the same generation and we want to take control of our country the way our age mates have done in their own countries. So someone who lives in Canada, where Trudeau has been governor for about a decade, and Trudeau is far younger than me, will still be advising me, why don't you go for the governor first? You know, so, and I see this person is actually very conservative. Even though they are young, but their brain is not young. The ideas are not young. So these are all the things that we need to do. So politics is different from just reaction to the government of the day. Because the government of the day in many countries are not good. In government of the day in some countries are good. But what makes a difference between a country that is thriving and the one that is struggling is that the country that is thriving, their democracy is deeper than the government of the day. And if the government of the day becomes a nuisance, they will organize themselves together, vote them out, put a better government. But in Nigeria, the opposition reserve bench is thin. The alternatives are shallow. And we need to invest more in that. And that's why after we lost the election, people say it's good to go and help the government of the day. I say, yes, I can help them by criticizing them, by talking to them constructively. But there's more need in the opposition. There's more need in raising alternatives and making the alternative feasible in the consciousness of people. Because you ask somebody, why would you go and vote for Bola Ahmed Tinubu in February 2023? Why would you? Why would you vote for Atiku Abubakar in February 2023? You can argue, but the person will tell you, I don't have alternative. So we now need not the alternative to exist, but the alternative to be convincing, alternative to be viable, and for people to have that level of confidence that the country is secure, the country is safe, the country will remain united, and the continuity of Nigeria is no longer in doubt, and that what we are bringing in is just to modernize the government, to make it accountable, efficient. And that is because I have spoken to many from the old order. And when you ask them, why are you standing on the wrong side? They will say, well, that's the side I know. Because outside this side, I don't know what your generation wants to do. So this is why we're out there to try to convince everybody, old, young, average, that a democracy is as good as an alternative. So don't worry too much about what Tinubu can do in 4 years. I pray and I believe it will be better than what Buhari has done in 8 years. But if I am wrong, if we can survive Buhari's 8 years and survive PDP 16 years, we can survive 4 years of Tinubu, which is now 3 years left. But what do you do next? Are we going to be in a society where when Tinubu leaves, another person comes, we say, even Tinubu was better. Because that has been the story of my life since I grew up in Nigeria. The government of the day is always bad. But as soon as that government leaves, another one comes, we say, oh, that one that left, not even as bad as this one. So we need to put an end to that. And those are the things that I'm consciously doing around the country.
Very good. It's time now to ask a few questions, and I'm sure there's some people online who would like to ask some questions. Can you please raise up your hands electronically so that we can see you and ask you to ask the questions? And I'm just going to ask Jumoke to conduct that question session, and then get Pastor Sonny to make some comments towards the end. Excellency, so how do you see our democracy in Nigeria right now? Any comments and thoughts on the state of our democracy, the election process, and are there ways by which we can improve those things and get them a bit better? What are your thoughts on that? After which Jumoke will take the questions if there are any.
My impression of our democracy is that democracy is yet to come. What we are having are attempts towards the democracy. So we are like somebody who wants to study medicine and is doing pre-med. So if they make the right grades, then they can start medicine. Well, like in those days, there used to be A levels or higher school. You go to do your HSC1, HSC2, because you wanted to enter university. From 1999 to now, we are being a civilian rule, but we have not managed to enter into democracy. Because democracy is not a permanent state. It is the presence of certain dynamics. So even a previous democratic state can slide away from democracy. So the tools of democracies are not complete. And that's how I see it. One is that the power is still not flowing from the people yet, for two reasons. The psychological self-disempowerment by the people, where they don't recognize that the government, they're the one forming the government, and that the government is their servant. They're commissioning an agent to work for them. They still have this monarchical dictatorial system where they think the people in government are their rulers and their leaders, their owners. Secondly, people don't want to take responsibility for making choices in a democracy. And to make choices in a democracy, you need to know the issues at stake and to make your choice of leadership based on where you stand on these issues. So require continuous education. That's for the people. They have to own the government. Second, the political parties have to arise from the people. The political parties today are even less democratic than NGOs. A man and his wife, a man and his friend, a man alone can form a political party and be the chairman, do whatever he likes, and selling candidature up and down. And a political party will collect from one person who wants to be the candidate of that party more than the money contributed and 99% of their members. So you know that these political parties don't exist. So you will see, and it's not only the small political parties. You even see the big political parties. You see PDP, when they have argument among themselves, one governor will say, I single-handedly sponsor this party. I gave so billion to the chairman of the party. I this and that and that. So that's why the governors are very strong in the parties, whether it's PDP or APC. It's like that. If you see the catharsis and crisis you find in Labour Party, which is a small party, you will see that it has to do with where is the money coming from, where is it so. And if you look at the struggle we're having in SDP, the struggle is how to make sure that our members actually fund the party and that the party is owned by them and they make contribution to the party, and the party is now a democratic party, and the National Working Committee, chairman, secretary, all the other people in the party, you pay them salary, allowances, they are your servant, and they work for you. But now it is not so. So the political parties need to work on that. Because to say, I am discussing how to broaden democracy, but I forget about the people, and I forget about political parties. We have not started. The next is the media. Nigerian media is mercenary. I'm a media owner, and I interact with the media. Nigerian media is mercenary. They sell airtime, officially and unofficially. So if you discover a cure to cancer, or you find a cure to you find solution to homelessness, if you do a press conference, it may not show until you pay the media some money. And if somebody wants to abuse his opponent, he can pay airtime and be doing defamation of character, outright lies, and the media will carry it live. So whatever you do, the media needs to understand that in a democracy, the media is one of the lubricants Therefore, if you are in a university teaching and you are a very good scholar, your qualities will be discovered by the media, and the media will highlight it as part of the leadership recruitment process for the country. Whether you have money to give them or not, they will follow you. If you, as we are talking here now in this forum, if there are any ideas that any of us bring up that are benefiting the country, the editor of the news is supposed to pick it up and flash it in the news and say, this is another issue that I think can bring solution to our problem. They won't have to call and say, Pastor, that's your event. Give us money or call me, all of that. So we keep developing the media. And on the other side, the media will also highlight any errors in governance, any error in quality of persons. Like when I was running for president, the media kept asking me, tell us about yourself. Tell us the school you attended. I said, you are the media. You're supposed to go and find this thing out. You're supposed to be using the question you know to question me about my eligibility for leadership. You should not be giving me a microphone to praise myself. What kind of student were you? You are supposed to have discovered. You are supposed to have gone to Ife, where I schooled, found my classmates, find my lecturers, check my academic records on your own. You should have gone to New York bar, where I practice, California bar, go to other places, go to London Court of Arbitration, go to ICC in Paris, go to other places, talk to some of my former clients. Is he a lawyer, an honest person? Go to Australia, talk to. So you should know me. And then you'll be questioning me based on what I have been and what I have done. That's how media can strengthen democracy. So that the way a criminal fears the police, ideally, that's how a politician with skeleton in his cupboard should fear the media. Not coming with like beggars who you distribute money to, and any nonsense you say, even if it's contrary to the nonsense you said yesterday, with the air yesterday, you say another thing opposite today, they also carry over team like that. That is, media has to do better than that going forward. Then we have to deal with the other pressure groups, the civil society, starting with the religious groups. And when I address CAN, because I'm a Christian by profession, by personal choice. Apart from being born in a Christian environment, I took a decision to be a Christian. And when I went to CAN, I made the same point. The church is not a place where you gather voters and sell to politicians. The fact that people come to the church, you have 20 million members, 10 million members, 5 million members, does not make you another food gatherer like Yaloja for a politician. It is a place where you first produce leaders, because by the mechanism of your doctrine, liturgy, and the belief system, and the close supervision of your membership, you will know who is a good member of your church. So you push them also for leadership. Secondly, when a non-member of your church comes forward to talk about leadership, you'll find in them whether there's righteousness. Because what is said is that righteousness exalts a nation. And when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. It doesn't mean that when a church member of your church rules, people rejoice. If the person is not of your faith, if the person believes in righteousness, which is doing justice and using public resources for the public, and being truthful and dutiful in the service of humanity, then you know that this person will be a just leader. And then you will also be a critic of bad leadership, because you have a voice in society. So this is what will deepen our democracy. And other institutions, traditional institutions, the same way. Then the NGOs, other groups. So we need to come together. The civil society should be stronger, even than the political party, despite the importance of the political party. Because the political parties, based on their membership alone, they can never come to power. based on the members of APC alone, there was no way Tinubu was going to go to power, or Buhari will have come to power. And based on the membership of PDP alone, there's no way they will have produced Obasanjo, Yaradua, Jonathan for the left. And so, and if I was relying on only SDP members, I would have nowhere to go. So it means that these other social groups too should also be putting pressure on the political class to say, these are our priorities. These are our concerns. For example, the church should be concerned about the plight of the poor in our midst, because before a person who is a Christian will call his political leader, he will probably call his pastor first. And there are some things that if I meet a constituent as president, he can't tell me, but he can tell the pastor. Same thing in the mosque. So the pastor, on the other hand, will now be an extension of putting pressure on the government to see that they spend on the poor and they do the right thing. And it is a combination of all of these things. But as a present, the politician is dictating the pace. They see that the journalists are a bunch of buccaneers and profiteers. So if you can maintain a sizable budget for media, they will amplify your nonsense for you. They will give you dedicated coverage. You will lie clearly to them and they will not mind. They will editorialize your life for you as long as you keep spending money. They know that party leaders don't have principle. Even if I'm not a member of the party, if I bring big money, they will throw away their members. They will take me and give me the ticket. They will do whatever I want them to do. They will change the delegate list. They will do whatever they want so I can buy them. They know that the pastors, they don't care. If you bring enough money, they will let you come to their church and they will clap for you and raise your hand and you do whatever you like. Because they too want to have influence when you are in power. So, and civil society, the politician who has money can always throw money at creating groups from groups. So there are youth with paper in their hand, writing proposal to anybody, as long as you can sponsor it. And so people are supposed to criticize you. You come and become a guest speaker and in a program. So even if the association is Youth Against Poverty, even though you have been responsible for poverty for the last 20 years, if you give them money, they will let you come and say whatever you like there. And then nobody will question you because you are the sponsor of the event. So these are all the things we need to start changing, because we're asking questions now about how to sustain our democracy beyond just the politicians' thing. If you tell me today, what is my highest desire? My highest desire is that we should hold an election tomorrow and Tinubu should go and I should come inside. That's my highest desire. But beyond my personal ambition to be president, democracy is bigger than me. And there are other stakeholders. The democracy is structured in such a way that majority of beneficiaries will never be in government. They will be outside the government and they will benefit from security of life and property, economic prosperity, social cohesion and peace, sound education, good health care, and the general feeling of well-being. That is what the people benefit from democracy. That is why people prefer democracy. Because in the democracy, they are benefiting from these dividends of democracy. And they know that if the government disappoints them, unlike a dictatorship, they can easily pull the government away, put another one. And even before pulling the government away to put another one, the fear that they have that right to put the government away and put another one gives them a leverage for the politician to listen to them when they say, we don't like this, we don't like this. So that is what I want us to invest in. But for a politician like me, my ambition is to be president of Nigeria If I wake up for 15 hours, I'm spending 14 hours out of it strategizing on how to become president. So that is what a politician would do. But talking here as a Democrat, I can recommend that what all of us need to do to build all those institutions. And lastly, democracy has to percolate to the smallest level in our social life. That's why you will see, excuse me, that in countries we call democratic, they are even democratic at home. From the way they raise their family, from the way they run school system, from the way they run association. So, but in Nigeria today, even in a family union, even in alumnus group, if you join a WhatsApp group and you see the way the administrator can kick you out because you make a comment they don't like, or people can, so general tolerance for democracy has to start, because you cannot become a president first, the Democrat later. Doesn't work. Your chance to be a Democrat is before you taste power. So that democracy has to be in your DNA, RNA, and ever inside your bone marrow before you even get there. Because when you access power, you become a lesser person than you are. The temptation to use the power. So it is good to make sure that people who are not Democrats, they don't taste power at all. You don't have any tendency that suggests that this person is not a Democrat at heart, should not come to power. But to do that, we need to produce as many people in our society that understand democracy. And democracy, we must confess, is alien to us. We had liberties and certain privileges in our traditional system, but they did not arise from democracy. They arose from the benevolence of our leadership and the general characteristics of honor that our leaders were, by our traditional religion and traditional belief system, they needed to have. But in modern times, most of our institutions, even the non-governmental institutions, anytime we interact, anybody will know that this is not a democratic society. So we need to start democratizing our society generally. Let ideas be the lead, let principles be the determinant of what we do, and let free will, free expression, respectful exchange of competing ideas be there. Then that way we can do it. Even our National Assembly, the way it is set up, it's not democratic enough. Somebody has to point to you whether you speak or not. Ours is the only parliament in the world where you can enter parliament, you want to talk. And somebody who is elected like you, it's not done like that. It has to choose you. No. In the parliament, everybody speaks. It's not an auditorium that is set up like this. So we have to make changes. Even our institution, National Assembly, both houses have to amend their rules to make the rules more democratic. So they won't have to expel a member just because they express a view that they don't like. The idea of a parliament is that anything you say there is covered. So you should be free to express yourself in parliament. You can say what is true, you can say what is untrue. The only thing is that person with a contrary opinion will answer you. And everybody who is a member of the parliament should have a right to speak on every subject, provided that within the time allowed, the person indicates that they want to speak. So those are, I don't want to turn it into a seminar, but those are real needs before democracy can settle in which case, when I run for office, I'm not desperate. I want to serve. And the superiority of my ideas will be enough for me to be confident that if you reject me once or twice, you will see the superiority of my ideas. You will come back and realize, oh, this person is saying what is correct. Let us go for it, for him. And if I lose in a free and fair election, I don't lose anything. It's a privilege to come out and offer ideas. And I will continue to offer the ideas, and I'll continue to make myself available until I convince my democratically convince majority of my countrymen and women that I am the right leader for them. And if, like Adewole and other people tried, if they didn't get it, we will still continue to be useful and to serve. And those are the things in a democracy. And lastly, the most important position in a democracy are the smallest ones, small, quote unquote. The party agent is as important as the national chairman of the party. Having a good councillor, a conscientious local government chairman, a good commissioner is as good as, it's even better for you than have a president. So, because many of the things you need are at the grassroots level. And what is the untold story of Nigeria's leadership crisis and governance deficit is that at the lowest level of governance, local government, municipal level, they have collapsed. And we can tolerate a charlatan for councillor. We don't care. We can tolerate a charlatan for local government chairman. We can even tolerate a charlatan for governor. But we only worry about the president. And that is not how to build a structure. And a political party cannot be complaining about not being elected, not being voted in. If you look at the spread, and after our election, even in the course of our election, as I was going around the country, one of the things I was saying was the gap between the spread of members of my party across the country and the number we need to be able to make the impact. I saw that already. And I realized that that is what we need to work.
Prince, oh, sorry to cut you. Can we have just barely 30 minutes to go so that we can put in some questions and some comments from the
Go ahead,
people.
please.
I hope you don't mind. Thank you very much. Jumoke, please go ahead and take the questions, and she will conduct this session. Thank you very much for your very, very enlightening information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Prince. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
And I pray that we have more people like you to actually step into this place of leadership, to actually hear you speak with such honesty, such passion gives us hope that, yes, we will indeed get the kind of leadership that Nigeria really needs. So thank you for raising your hand and stepping into the space. And we pray that God will continue to equip you and strengthen you as you continue to strive for that Nigeria that we desire and that we need. Thank you so much. We have 6 hands up, so I'm going to ask everyone to please keep your comments and your questions succinct, 30 seconds or less, so that our speaker can take those questions. We're going to group them in 3. We're taking only the 6 hands that we have up. So can I have Kim Thomas, Alison, please go ahead and ask your question, 30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, sir. What a pleasure listening to you. I'm so happy. We've had great leaders come here to speak, but really, you are really special. God bless you. Me especially, I gave up about this country after the last election, where you have renewed my belief in the country. You've given me some ideas today that I understand things better. I have to go back and watch this again on YouTube to watch this. I'm trying to take some notes, but I can't catch up. Really, I'm impressed.
Can you ask your question, please? We have 6 hands up. If you don't mind, sorry to cut you, please.
Yes. Well, I don't even know where to start from. You said we should invest in leaders initially, like churches do on pastors before you become a regional pastor. It seems like what APC is already doing in Lagos, or is it different? If you notice, they're almost investing in their leaders in Lagos before you become governor, as if they're already doing it. Do you have a different idea, or you saying this we should follow that pattern? And again, how can I join your movement? I'm really interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me
no, if you don't mind us taking 3 questions so that you can answer them together, I'm also writing them down.
Okay.
So it's easier. Okay. I wrote him his question down. Can I have Mr. Ogulano please ask your question? 30 seconds or less, please.
Well, I'm not asking question, just brief comment. And just to thank the organizer of this event. But I keep asking, Pastor, how come Nigeria has never changed all this while? I'm 55 years old. I was once president when we were fighting for this democracy. Some people said, it's not going to work. I was just 24 years old then. One prison. But the same people, I mean, people can talk and say, okay, this is what happened. But nothing has changed up to today. And one of the reasons is that we are not holding people accountable. We don't understand who we are. All of us in Nigeria, we're oligarchy-centric. And until we understand who we are, that we don't even do party politics in Nigeria, we do politics of people and politics of money. And until we come together and adopt the system that's going to work for us, then we are still going to be coming here and be talking about the same thing. Nigeria didn't change today, up to today, because of opportunism. People are waiting for their turn. And that's why we see those who are firebrand. I mean, just a few years back, they got to the position of power. In fact, they did worse than the people we criticize. But let me give it to Olusegun Obasanjo. In 1999, when Obasanjo
Thank
took
you,
over,
sir. I'm so sorry, sir.
Well, thank
I'm
you very
sorry
much.
we can't go into history.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. So sorry. So sorry. Would definitely like to hear your comments another time. May I have Mr. There isn't a question. He said he didn't have a question. He had a comment.
It's a question also. You can interpret it as a question. I ask question, why is it that Nigeria is so good? We've seen people talking the way you talk. And they get to the position of power, they didn't do anything. I mean, let's talk about that. Until when we start holding people accountable, until when pastors start organizing this kind of meeting, not to listen to what, but hold people accountable, what are you going to do differently?
Thank you.
It's cultural
Thank you
issue.
very much. Thank you, sir. So may I have Mr. Obiyemi, 30 seconds or less, please?
Good evening, sir. Thank you for your lecture. SDP, I mean, when you say you join SDP to be president, so I was just wondering, with your beautiful ideas and all, how were you planning to, I mean, win the election without a strong, structured, like they have in PDP, a mega party, APC, a mega party? You have 774 local governments. How were you planning to implement a winning strategy? You know, that's one. Two, even if you eventually, maybe by, you know, just like France, some other country, you could be lucky and you win. How were you planning to rule Nigeria with all the senators and House of Rep that will surely give you a hard time? How are you going to lobby them to pass some dangerous policies that you want to use to implement, I mean, to change Nigeria and not? Because that's is one of the major problems I think we have in the country at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So Prince, do you have those 3 questions or do you want me to read them out?
Yeah, I have them.
Okay. If you could take all 3, and then we can take the last set of questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. You see, the first one has to do with leadership recruitment. Whether we use church model or the Lagos model. I'm not saying the Lagos model is fantastic, but it is far better than in other states where everything is downhill. When I went to see a former head of state, because of my running for office, and we were having a chit chat, the person said, look, I've governed the country the best. And I say, yeah, I concede that. And that's the problem. Because you governed long ago. It shouldn't be the case. Our best should not be in the past. So by working to see that people came after you are not as good as you owe me an apology for that. So, and then we discussed that. What I'm saying is that it's not only for presidency. Leadership recruitment, and I started with the army. I give illustration of the army. That every institution, and I give that of the church, every institution has perpetual succession, and human life is not perpetual. Therefore, the challenge is always to recruit one who is loyal, to the system, who understands the system, who has competencies that are required to perform and get certain outcomes, and who has no ethical challenge. And then surround them with other people. That's the whole idea. So in selecting leadership for Nigeria, you have to first of all have somebody who believes in Nigeria. It's not everybody who's brilliant and who is full of ideas that you can make president. Because some don't know how to serve the public. I can be brilliant in my law firm, and I want to be a senior advocate, be a chief judge. I'm concerned about my career, and I will do anything to succeed. Doesn't mean I'm good for political leadership. I can be a fantastic banker. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be a good leader. What's measurement for a good leader is that the person has public spirit. They can work for the public, people far more than they can work for themselves. Some people, if they become a bank, if they work in a bank, because they're working for profit, and they're working to be CEO, or they're working for their career in the army, the university, they can do very well because I want to be a professor before I'm 40 years old. They will work very hard. But if you give them a public duty to do, they may not want to do that. They're centered around their own career. So leaders know all of these things, and they start looking for. General principle to be that we are trying to select good leaders. And when we do that, it's not that hard. It is not that we try to select good leaders in Nigeria and we didn't succeed. No. The decision taken by the leadership of Nigeria was that they will not take a risk. They will keep the status quo among themselves, and they will keep rotating the power among themselves. Even when they run out of talent, they will say, the guy might be a totally unknowledgeable person, just put him there. And if occasionally they interview 3 people, they will drop the smartest person like a hot cake and say, I don't want him. I want a pliant person. I want a person who will not disobey me. I want a person who will be there, and I will continue to do whatever I'm doing, and the rest cannot question me. And not only the Godfather only, but people in business too. When you go and interact with captains of industry, they don't want anybody who wants accountability. Many don't want that. If they have certain privileges, they want to keep them. People want to own AMCOM money, own bank money and not pay, and be in charge of AMCOM. So all across. And same thing with workers. Any person who comes to leadership, who is going to say everybody comes to work on time, no nonsense, civil servants will also go against. So it's a general repentance. It's not an indictment, only a session. All of us now have to do that. Then how to join the movement, you already joined by coming here. You can read the SDP manifesto if you agree with SDP. You can join if you don't agree. You can still support him. It's a question of making sure that if we make comments that make sense, you can spread them. If we make a point you don't like, you can get back to us and say, I don't agree with you on this point, or explain to me. So that engagement and talking to people, that's basically how to join the movement. So now there's a comment which can be first a question. Why is there no change despite all these ideas and speeches? Speeches, they are not difficult to make. But ideals to become reality, they have to be put in context of a system. The problem in Nigeria so far is that people don't change in their behavior, but they can change their word of mouth. But hitherto, even up to this point, it doesn't matter what your character is, what your past is. There's no memory. Nobody's going to question you. So it makes many people who are outside government to just believe that if I'm outside government, I can say whatever I like. There's no question. When I enter government, I behave like other people. Because in reality, many of the people you said this and that, if you look at their lifestyle, if you look at what they've done, it wasn't consistent with what they are saying. And that's why when I started the beginning of this intervention, I said that as far as Tinubu is concerned, you can be his worst critic, or you can be his opponent like me, but you can never say that he's not doing what he said he would do. Of course, there were times in the past when he would criticize President Jonathan for removing subsidy, just a little amount of subsidy reduction, and he will criticize for not having sympathy on the poor and all of that. But when he was governor of Lagos, he imposed tax on everybody. So even at that time, it was obvious to the people that those criticisms of Jonathan were not genuine. Because if you look at the behavior of Jonathan's government in terms of subsidy, in terms of fiscal management, in terms of taxation, Tinubu was tougher. So it should have been called out at that time. But overall, in the course of his campaign, what he said he was going to do, which I know will never work, that the things he's doing now. So it's not the case that people change. It's that when they come out, there's not enough criticism of them or critique of what they are saying. Now, how did we plan to win without structure? We knew it was difficult to win without structure. However, when we audited ourselves, we were present in all the local governments. So even the big political parties, when it comes to legal structure, they didn't have more structure than us, but they had illegal structures. Things like vote buying and other things. So we thought that leading a campaign where the country was tired and going around the country as we did, but we did not know that the political elite would divide themselves into both incumbent and opposition. And that got the people of Nigeria to need more help in discerning that when you look at these big political parties, they were all part of the incumbent. But the interpretation people gave was that as long as you're not in APC, you are opposition. If you're not in APC that hour, you're opposition. But our campaign was run on the basis that if the Nigerian people could choose between the people who have been ruling since 1999 and what they have been doing wrong and how they don't have ideas, and they compare with our ideas, that we were going to be able to triumph. But we learned our lesson and realized that no, the message doesn't sink in within 9 months of campaign. If we were to do that, we should have started much earlier. And that the elite whom we are trying to overtake, trying to take power from, they were clever enough to divide themselves into 3. So the APC, PDP, and Labour, all incumbents, they all have been in the same system before, and they took all the oxygen away, and now we are going back to work on our grassroots. Then last point as to how will I have worked with the National Assembly? What we believe was that a momentum that was going to push a first-timer to become president will also push a lot of first-timers to become members of the National Assembly. And so I wasn't the only one running. The party fielded candidates in other places. And then there are other candidates from other political parties that are not from the government side that we've had discussions with them. We were 14 political parties that had 1 year of coming together. So we thought that different parties, the way the election was supposed to go, if ADC will have at least 3 senators, Labour will have some, majority come from the parties that were not in. But it turned out that that's not the case at all. So that's our lesson. I will work, next time. I will not say the lesson we've learned now, because don't make the mistake of running 2027 on the lesson of 2023, because every election season brings its own new challenge.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We have 3 more questions, 3 more hands up. And I'm also going to ask you to please help summarize it, because we are really up on the hour and we'd like to have your closing remarks after this. So we'll make it very, okay, thank you. So Adebanke, and I want to recognize all our ALG youths that are on the platform. Adebanke is one of the coordinators. So go ahead, Adebanke, and ask your question. then we'll have Auntie Yemisi, and then we'll have Alex. Those are the last 3 hands we'll have. So please keep it 30 seconds or less. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. And I want to say I appreciate Prince Adebayo for his understanding of Nigerian politics. But there is this popular saying that no matter how righteous and good you are, once you join Nigerian politics, you'll be corrupted because of the people you are going to work with. And that will change no matter how good your manifestos, no matter how good you are, you're going to be corrupted. Is there a way we can do it that the new government will get to work with new people and have fresh breath? And also, you said the media should strengthen the government, but our own media today, we see that some of them are partisans and they are spreading fake news and promoting their own person. Is there a way to moderate their activities whereby they will obey the law of the land truly? And the last part is that in Nigeria, we do not only have leadership problem, we have followership problem as well. And the mentality of the people that they want to milk the politicians. When they see someone contesting, they get money from them. I served at the National Assembly. I see people trooping in and out of the government, out of the House of Assembly, bringing their personal interest. And these activities will not make us to hold them accountable because we've gotten things from them and we won't be able to ask for what they've done for us. And they keep us giving us this stomach infrastructure instead of prioritizing other aspects. Is there a way we can do it that people will get to know that they have more to get from the government or people or politicians instead of collecting little things and selling the birthright of other innocent people? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. May I have Auntie Yemisi Ransome-Kuti, please? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jumoke. Good to be here. Prince Adebayo, I'm always so delighted when I listen to your very frank and fair analysis of our politics. I understand your experience because I ran for the Senate with the SDP in 2011. So you were kind of explaining the scenario of how you also got into politics. My first question is, campaign financing is obviously a huge problem in Nigerian politics. To be able to capacitate political parties to run their parties and the campaign issues without the dominance of, the huge money bags. How would you do that? The second thing is, if you become president, you're going to work with the public service. They're the ones that have the responsibility to implement government policies and strategies. How will you deal with the corruption? Because I think that's where the biggest corruption in our country is. How would you deal with the inefficiency and the corrupt practices within the public service itself? How would you deal with labor unions, who are the ones who are running our public services, delivering power? They work for, all of our public institutions. The labor workers, how would you deal with building their competencies to become less corrupt and more competent? How would you deal with the subnationals, managing your relationships with the state government and particularly the local government? How would you ensure that local government works? And finally, do you advocate for a parliamentary system? Thank you so much for always speaking truth to power. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alex, Mr. Alex, please ask your question, 30 seconds or less. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, moderator, and thank you, Prince. All your points are well undertaken. The only question I have is, in Nigeria, I will talk about this journalist. I want to ask a question. Do we have any investigative journalists in Nigeria? Because they are the one who can do the right job over there. Those people, so-called journalists in Nigeria, they are just mess. They don't do nothing. they only work on their pocket. So is there anything we can do, like where I am right now, they have investigative reporter, they are the one who go to get everything done, even before they even know, they will expose you anytime. If any corruption in any government, they will expose you anytime. So is that one possible in Nigeria? Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, let me take it quickly. They are longish, but I have to wrap up.
Yes, thank you.
The media is a constitutional entity. They are mentioned in the Constitution. Even before we start talking about government media, so they need to understand. Maybe the fourth estate of the realm that people call media, they don't understand it. The media is permanent government. And it's one of the few professions, media and law, they are the two professions that are mentioned in the Constitution. So they need to recognize that. And you will see that in the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria today, it's not only the media that is messing up. Even me as a lawyer, my profession is messing up. Because it is my profession that will occupy one arm of government, judiciary. All of us there are lawyers. So the one arm of government is committed to us, and how well are we serving there? So it is that education has to go to the media, as I mentioned. Now, the idea of people exploiting politicians, they are exploiting themselves because they don't realize that the politician has no money to give you. People used to tell me in those days when we started that you are not spending money. I said, look, I'm spending more money than most of the politicians you're mentioning. Because they are spending government money, your money. Me, I'm giving you money I made from my profession. So, and if you think that you fool a politician by collecting their money, you are fooling yourself, because that's your social welfare money that is being spent on you ahead. That's why you have no leverage. So, especially for youth and women, they are the one-time wrapper for everybody. So, once you buy them wrapper and t-shirt, then you are welcome. And youth like all this money. Even people posting on social media, many of them are being funded by politicians. So we need to, I know the economy is hard, but we need to know that in politics, you can suspend it. You can try as much as possible, because solution to your problem comes from having political leaders that are good, which means you need to make contribution, not encourage money politics. Campaign finance, which is very crucial. Campaign finance starts from financing a political party. I'm addressing the question of Mrs. Yemisi Kuti. The campaign finance does not start with when election starts. Every political party, like it was,
it's Miss Ransom Kuti, not Mrs.
Okay.
I'm the head of the family.
Thank you, Miss Ransom Kuti. I do apologize. I decided to err on the side of Mrs. So I should have said Lady Kuti. So now, when you start a political party, you start with the money. Just like you're starting with a church or a mosque. It's a public institution. So your contribution should be based on your contribution to the party, not waiting for money from the skies. Now, dealing with, if I had won, how would I have done with the public service? I'll deal with politicians. First, with public service is very easy. They work for the government. They are not the government. The civil servants are there to carry out professional, technical, administrative duties. They don't make decisions in government. So the decisions are made at the government level. The problem with government starts with the ministers. If you have a good minister, you can professionalize the public service. You choose permanent secretaries are directly appointed by the president. They don't grow into it. When you get to the level of permanent secretary, even though you are director, you do exam, the president has to choose. So politicians have a lot of influence. The problem we have is that so far, they work in glove in hand. The corruption of the political class is aided by the corruption of the public services. And the corruption of the public service is tolerated because the political leaders don't want civil servants who will say no. That is why if you go to many states, the people they elect as their governor used to be the collaborator of the governor. He will be the accountant general or the general of the state. That's the person the governor will say, since we both committed the crime together, okay, you go and succeed me because you cannot prove yourself. So, and at the federal level, you will see that it is easy for the government to control if the aim is to control the civil servant. That's not a problem at all. Now, when it comes to the labor unions, unions are okay. They are democratic institutions. It's good to give workers a voice. However, unions don't run the civil service. They only speak in terms of the welfare of their members. That's all. So labor union, NSC, TUC, AUC, ASU, they talk about the welfare of their members. They're not running government. And if my government will keep to labor law, will fulfill our obligation to labor, you won't see labor having any serious voice in my government because the welfare of the workers, their dues are paid to them, so they don't need the union to talk. However, the area where the union would love us is our commitment to Chapter 2 of the Constitution, because they will realize that the problems they are having with salary not being enough, poor living wages, has to do with controlling inflation and providing social services. So they will love us for that. Now, how to make local government work? That's not a difficulty for me. Even now, as we speak, all over the world, I'm one of the well-known experts in local government administration. Right from the Union of Local Government in Africa. As far back as 20 years ago, I've been consulting for local governments all over the world. We used to hold the Afri-cities. And even in Nigeria today, despite political differences, I give a lot of support to local government administration. So I know how local government should work, and I advocate for them. And when they have issues with the federal government, I advocate for local government more. So I consult for them. So it's not difficult. And I mentioned it earlier. They must work. And this is not a partisan issue. This is a structural issue. Whichever party is in local government, they must work. And across party line, they've not been working. Because one, they're not real. The people don't believe in them. And the governors just appoint them by hand, and they seize their resources and use it to augment state resources or outrightly divert them. So they will work with me. Parliamentary system, we have tried it before. I'm a student of it. And I observe it work in Canada. I observe it work in UK. I don't think it can work in Nigeria. It can work, but it's easier to operate the presidential system than the parliamentary one. Because the parliamentary system is not stable. No government has tenure. So it's just by coalition. And if you know what Balewa went through, Balewa had to work with a lot of undesirable elements in order not to lose majority. If you look at, we don't have time, I will have elucidated. If you look at the argument between Babatunde Joseph as MD of Daily Times and that debate he had with Balewa, when people were talking about the corruption at P&T, when they sold that land at Jora Causeway, that was the First Republic. And they were asking him to discipline the minister who was involved. He called Babatunde Joseph and said, how can I discipline the minister? I'm in a coalition government. I told his party to remove him. They said they were not going to remove him. So if I remove him, they will withdraw. We have to call another election. And there are so many other problems. So it is a parliamentary system is more democratic than a parliamentary system, than a presidential system. However, a presidential system is more stable. And that was why at the Constituent Assembly in 1977, everyone who was alive, Awolowo, Aminu Kano, all of them who were in the parliamentary system voted for the presidential system. So I think if we obey the presidential system, it will work better. That is my own point of view. But as the country goes later, you can have a hybrid system like South Africa, where the president himself is also an automatic member of parliament. Then you can go to parliament to be questioned. You can do that. Then investigative journalism and all of that. In this era, of social media, in this era of multimedia, every person is a whistleblower and every person is an investigator. What is important is that we should stick to truth. The problem in Nigeria is that truth, from my own little experience now, truth is subsidiary to interest. So if you like somebody and they do something 3 degrees bad, you say it doesn't matter. But if you don't like somebody and they do something 1 degree bad, you will amplify it. So that across the political divide and between the elite and the followers, between the politician and the voters, we must respect basic truth. And that is the crisis they are facing in America now. The MAGA elements don't care about the truth. The Democrats, some of them don't care about the truth. So there's no common truth. Whereas in the past in America, when I was younger, following America, growing up, America has basic truth across party line. There are certain things you could not do. But no matter which party you belong to, everybody will condemn you. But in America today, nobody does that anymore. Or few people do that. In Nigeria, we don't even care. So we need to care. We need to care about the truth. The truth should be independent of politics. I don't support somebody, but if the truth is this way, I say this truth is this way. Let us have that. It will help all of us.
Yeah. Thank you so very much. And I think you've had your closing comments with all that. This has been very insightful. I don't know if Pastor Sonny wanted to come up or Mr. President had additional comments before we close. We also wanted to just recognize that this is NLS 4th year. Tuesday made it 4 years of being on the air, and I think we played the video earlier on. So because of time, we'll probably share that. Pastor Sonny, Mr. President, do you want to come up? We also have a few more announcements. Wanted to get permission from them before we continue our announcement. Okay.
You forgot to tell us what Brother was supposed to do.
Okay, so one more announcement for us. Our youth is launching their version next week with the UNESCO shared stories. So please come out and support them. Adebanke, if you have that flyer, please put it in the chat. It will be on Tuesday, 5 p.m. So please, we encourage them, as Mr. Adebayo Prince Adebayo had mentioned. They are a very important segment of our society that we need to support and equip with the right leadership tools. So please come alongside us and support them as they take this real leadership quest very seriously. Thank you. I want to call on Pastor Sonny if there are other announcements. Otherwise, we'll just close with the video from the very first segment of NLS 4 years ago.
Okay, no real comment from me other than to thank Adewole Adebayo. Really insightful. We didn't take the nitty-gritty elements of the policies of this government and their impact on Nigeria. I think we just sort of like spoke more broadly on how government should be. Because if we look at all the various policies that have been implemented so far and the effects on Nigeria as it were, we've had you speak on other platforms, but I think I like the posture you took today, and we really, really want to appreciate you. We'll probably have you another time so that we'll look at the specific policies and specific alternatives to them, if they are, what you would be profiling to say. For instance, I heard you talk about labor negotiating salary, for example. That, look, we don't need to talk about salaries. If all the other things are in place to make life easy in Nigeria, whether you earn 50,000 or 1 million or 20,000, there are basic things that government can do so that they don't have to talk so much about wages. But I think we'll have that on another time. But I really want to appreciate you and thank you. Let's take that announcement. Time is fast spent. We are done past 8. And Jumoke, just take all the other announcements and then we'll be glad to.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to share, but we'll go ahead and post the video from the very first session. So on the screen, you can see the invitation to our youth's inaugural launch of their own platform. our shared stories, celebrating together. So please join them, share the information with them as well. And with your network, we would like as many people as possible to come out and support our youth. We also want to thank all those that have been supporting us financially. We got a huge donation today, and I don't know that she wants us to share, announce her name, but we want to thank all those that believe in the vision and mission of the organization, that are supporting financially, that are supporting with their intellectual capacity, their time, and their resources. We can continue to do better with each other. So we're very grateful for you, and we invite you to come alongside us. Prince Adebayo's group also posted his contact information in the chat room of how you can get in touch with them if you want more information about their party and their plans. So please go ahead and collect that information from the chat room. There's also a link on how you can join ALG and be a part of this movement. We are non-partisan, and we support the good of Nigeria. We support the right, responsible, ethical, and accountable leadership for the good of Nigeria. So please come alongside us. We are definitely interested in partnering with as many like-minded organizations and individuals as possible. So thank you very much for your time here, and complete the link and we'll be in touch with you. The youth also posted their flyer in the chat. We also launched a poll for you to score the present administration, the 1 year in office. Thank you to those of you that took the poll. We are glad you were able to do that. So over to you, Mr. President, for any last comments.
Thank you.
Well, no real last comments, but to thank our guests today. Everybody has really enjoyed your session. They've commented on your fluidity in the expression and in the language and your knowledge of subject matter. So thank you very much. I'm sure when we call on you again, you will respond because we're really trying to reach the hearts of the people, and we're trying to reorientate the minds of Nigerians as to how to take our leadership choices. It's very, very important that we do that. And unless we can take the appropriate leadership choices, we may not be able to pull ourselves out of where we are. So thank you. Keep up the faith, keep up the good work. And I'm sure we'll see in the by and by. When you are back in Nigeria, let us know. We can have a private meeting, and then we'll take it from there. What we want to do here is just to encourage the best in leadership for Nigeria, and to ensure that Nigeria turns the curve and becomes that country that it really should be. And to also bring out all the talents that are available and abundant, both in Nigeria and in diaspora, to let them come back and build a great Nigeria for the future. Thank you so much. God bless you all. And I want to thank all our participants and everyone who asked such brilliant questions. You are really great Nigerians. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
So let's know when you are back.
Nigeria. Thank you so much, Prince Adebayo. God bless Nigeria.
Well done, Pastor Ighodalo and Jumoke and the team.
Thank you so much. Prince